In a dry basin at the edge of the African steppe, where the grass had turned yellow from the heat, a lone female elephant moved with slow, careful steps. Her swollen belly weighed her down with each step, the weight of her new life making her gait uneven. The movement of her ears and the restless movement of her trunk betrayed her anxiety. She heard them before she saw them. From the shadowy thickets of acacia, shapes began to emerge, moving with the measured rhythm of predators who know the value of patience. Hyenas, not just the scavengers of legend, but skilled hunters. When the odds were in their favor, their eyes caught the moonlight in fleeting glare, and their paws slid silently over the cracked earth. They formed a semicircle, closing the distance slowly, but with a quiet inevitability. The elephant had no herd to protect her. She had wandered too far from the safety of the group. Her trunk curved slightly, testing the air, as if she could sense their intent. A low hum rolled through her body, but it was more to herself, a reminder to stay put. The hyenas were in no hurry, however. They circled, reading her movements, noting the slight sway as she shifted from foot to foot. Each knew that she carried more than herself. In the wild, such a burden could turn strength into vulnerability. The leader, a battered female with a ragged tail and a scar on her face, stepped forward, her head down, her shoulders rolling with silent power. She paused at striking distance, assessing the sweep of that huge trunk and the arc of those elephantine tusks. Behind her, the others dispersed, their silhouettes flickering between the tall stems, appearing and disappearing like shadows in a river. The elephant turned, her massive frame swaying with unexpected speed for her condition, her tusks catching the moonlight. For a moment, the line held, predator and prey frozen in a fragile balance. Then the first lunge came not from the front, but from the right. A blur of spotted skin and snapping jaws rushed forward, testing the line. The trunk lashed down like a falling branch, catching the hyena on the shoulder. A squeal tore through the silence, but was quickly lost in the night. Another shadow darted from the opposite side, distracting, drawing attention away from the leader, who crept closer. The elephant's breathing was heavy, steam rising from her in the cool night. She swung again, tusks cutting the air, but each movement took more and more strength. The herd had huddled closer, their circle narrowing, tactics honed by countless hunts. The female with the ragged tail stepped forward, slow, calculating. Her gaze was not on the elephant's face, but on her sides, where the muscles were strong but the reach was weak. She knew that time was on their side. The longer the elephant twisted and turned, the more the weight of the unborn calf weighed her down. Suddenly, the sound of breaking grass came from behind, and for the first time the elephant hesitated. She turned sharply, ears open, peering into the darkness. Something was moving there. Not another hyena, but heavier. The ground shook slightly with each step. The hyenas froze, caught between instinct and calculation. The leader twitched her ears, reassessing the situation. The elephant's posture changed. Her trunk shot up high, and she let out a low, resonant call, not a panic trumpeting cry of fear, but a deep, inviting tone that seemed to carry beyond the open steppe. It hung in the air like an unspoken promise. From the darkness, massive shapes emerged, moving with a firm, unstoppable purpose. The circle of hyenas wavered, but they did not scatter. Not yet. The gaze of the female with the ragged tail darted between the approaching shadows and the vulnerable prey before her. For a moment the world froze, the elephant breathing heavily, the hyenas tense in silence, the new arrivals drawing closer with each booming step. And then, somewhere in the silence between predator and prey, something changed. 3 elephants emerged from the gloom, their bodies catching the moonlight in pale arcs. They were older females, broad and battle-hardened, their tusks jagged from years spent protecting cubs from lions and drought. They walked without haste, but with such a weight of presence that the air itself changed. Even the hyenas, so skilled at reading the odds, paused at the presence of this new force. The pregnant female stood still, flanks heaving, ears slightly forward, but not yet fully relaxed. Her deep, inviting call reached them, and now the matron of the herd, a huge elephant with a scar on her flank and a broken tusk, took her place beside her. She did not touch her, but her very presence was a wall. The hyenas read the language of poses. They knew their target was no longer alone. But they did not retreat. Hunger, sharpened by many lean nights, could make even the boldest risk seem worthwhile. Matrona turned her head slowly toward them, her eyes scanning the pack with predatory calm. She stepped forward just enough to test their nerves. A wave passed through the hyenas, slight shuffling, tails drooping slightly, but the female with the ragged tail stood firm. Her gaze remained fixed on the pregnant female, knowing that the others had arrived too late to erase the scent of weakness hanging in the air. A thin wind swept across the steppe, carrying with it the smell of dust and the faint taste of old blood. Somewhere in the distance, a nightbird called out, a sound so fragile that it almost dissolved before it reached her. Matrona's ears turned, measuring the distance, calculating the risk of another predator drawn to the place. She moved closer to the pregnant doe, her massive shoulder brushing hers in a gesture that was both a comfort and a command. The hyenas resumed their slow circle, spreading out wider, their paws silent on the ground. They were no longer aiming for a direct charge. They were testing the edges, looking for the slightest gap in the herd's line. The Matrona shifted again, her trunk curving toward the ground, sweeping up dust with slow, calculated movements. She was not bluffing. If they came too close, she would strike, and her kind was known to kill when the balance was upset. But the night was long, and predators were patient. For a moment the pregnant doe's head drooped, her trunk brushing the Matron's shoulder. She was tired, more tired than she cared to admit, her legs shaking from the strain of standing guard for so long. The calf inside her pushed outward, a restless movement beneath her ribs, as if sensing danger beyond the curtain of her mother's body. Her breathing came in long, controlled breaths, but the cost of that energy was obvious. The hyenas sensed it too. Two young ones darted from the flanks, fast and low, teeth snapping at the edges of the line. The matron lunged, a fang cutting through the air with enough force to send dust flying. But the attackers were already gone, retreating just enough to keep the game going. Every lunge, every turn, stole energy from the elephants, and the predators knew they had only to wait for fatigue to do the work for them. From the shadows, the female with the ragged tail watched, body still, breathing even. She knew the other females couldn't guard every corner forever. Her plan changed, not to crush, but to outlast, to crush until instinct, not choice, separated the elephants. Moonlight caught her eyes as she waited for the pregnant female to stumble again. Matrona sensed a shift, a patience in her opponent. She shifted her mass slightly forward, completely blocking the pregnant female from the approaching hyenas. But that left her rear open, and one of the younger predators crept into the widening gap. The pregnant female tried to turn, but the weight in her belly slowed her, and the sharp snap of her jaws missed a hair of flesh. The sound of her low, urgent rumble cut the night air deeper and sharper than before. The other females responded instantly, tightening their positions, fangs pointed into the shadows. For a moment the tension hung so tightly that the entire steppe seemed to hold its breath. Then, from beyond the edge of the steppe came a sound that neither predator nor prey had expected. A deep, distant vibration that traveled through the earth more than the air. It was not thunder, though it rolled like it. It was heavier, slower, and coming closer. The matron's ear twitched, her eye narrowed not in fear but in recognition. The hyenas froze mid-step, their eyes darting to the horizon. Even the ragged-tailed female lowered her head slightly, as if the weight of this approaching presence had already overtaken her. The pregnant female raised her head, her trunk stretched high into the night, the scent of the wind changing on her skin. Whatever was approaching was neither predator nor savior in any simple sense. It was older, larger, and entirely of its own power. And as the vibrations grew stronger, every creature in the basin, hunter and hunted, began to change in unpredictable ways. From the black edge of the steppe, the vibrations deepened until they began to pulse in his chest. A faint metallic smell floated on the shifting air. Not of blood but of torn earth and distant rain, though the sky was cloudless. The matron stood firm, but the pregnant female shifted restlessly, her ears half folded, as if between curiosity and terror. The hyenas did not advance anymore. Their leader, the female with the ragged tail, turned her head slightly, her eyes fixed not on the elephants but on the horizon, her nostrils flaring with each new breath. Then a lone male elephant emerged from behind the line of grass. His tusks were long, one yellowed and filed down to a blunt point. The other curved into a sharp sickle. His skin bore deep furrows, old battles etched into the map of his body, and his gait was deliberate, almost burdened with thought. He was not one of the matron's herd, the scent made that clear. But his presence here was no accident. The matron's trunk rose and she made a low guttural rumble that vibrated in the cool night. It was not a greeting, it was a question, a test of intent. The male slowed, his gaze sliding over her, over the pregnant female, and finally into the semicircle of hyenas. Something about his stillness alarmed the herd. They spread out wider, keeping the elephants in sight but creating distance from the newcomer. The male's trunk dropped to the ground, sweeping away the dust in a slow semicircle. To the uninitiated it was a simple gesture, but in elephant language it was multifaceted, a reminder of size, a declaration that he would not be moved easily, yet he did not close the distance. He stood at the edge of the moonlight, his features unreadable. The matron's ear twitched slightly, and the pregnant female, sensing something in the exchange, moved closer to her side. The calf inside her turned again, a restless nudge under her ribs. Her breathing quickened, not from the hyenas now, but from the uncertainty this male carried. She could not know whether he had come as a protector, an opportunist, or something in between. The hyenas, meanwhile, seemed to sense a gap in the elephant's restlessness. Two darted forward in quick, tentative lunges at the female's hind legs, forcing her to turn and the matron to retreat, tightening the line. The male did not move to help. He merely watched, his eyes catching a sliver of moonlight, as if reflecting a personal calculation. There was a moment, brief but poignant, when the pregnant female turned her head toward him. It was not a request, but a confession. Here was another of her kind, larger and stronger, who could tip the balance in an instant, but his silence in that moment carried as much weight as his action. In the elephant world, intervention was never without a price. The ragged-tailed female broke the impasse. She slunk forward, shoulders low, and gave a short guttural call. The rest of the herd shifted in response, squeezing into a crescent again. Whatever they read in the male's stillness, it encouraged them. The matron took one deliberate step forward, her mass obscuring the pregnant female entirely. The ground between predator and prey was shrinking again, but now there was a third, hanging on the edge, neither advancing nor retreating. The male's tail twitched once, warding off an invisible insect. His gaze was still. The night seemed to close in around this triangle of tension. Even the wind died down, as if unwilling to carry the scent of what might happen next. The pregnant female's trunk dropped, touching the ground, tracing a semicircle at her foreleg. The gesture was both rooting and restless. The hyenas shifted again, their paws scraping the dry earth in soft scrapers. Then, far away across the steppe, came a sound, faint and irregular, and unlike the steady vibration that had brought the male. It was taller, thinner, but it carried across the distance with astonishing clarity. Every head turned toward it. The male's ears opened slightly. The matron paused mid-breath. Even the female, with her ragged tail, paused, a paw hovering above the ground. The sound came again. Closer now, not the voice of an elephant, not the cry of a predator. It was sharper, with a touch of urgency, and carried a strange pull, as if it belonged to something out of place in the night. The male shifted his weight. At last his eyes narrowed toward the darkness beyond the grass. The matron's trunk rose high, testing the wind for an answer. But the sound died away into silence, leaving only the open steppe, the moonlight, and the sense that what was coming would change the balance for all standing here. The sound came back, closer, sharper, breaking through the stillness like breaking glass. This time, it was followed by the quick thud of something moving at speed, too light for an elephant, too smooth for a fleeing antelope. The matron's ears turned toward it, her eye on the horizon. The male turned slightly, the great muscles in his shoulders tensing, his weight shifting into readiness. The hyenas hesitated, reading the shifting postures of both giants. A young elephant, no more than 2 seasons old, burst from the tall grass, his small body dusty and shaking with exhaustion. His cries, high and desperate and damp, tore through the night. He did not belong to the matron's group. His scent was foreign, alien. The baby elephant stumbled into the moonlight, heading straight for the pregnant female, as if drawn by the shape and scent of safety. Matrona moved to block him instantly, fearing the distraction would break their line, but the calf pressed against her leg with the blind desperation of the lost. His breath came in short bursts, his tiny trunk gasping for comfort. He found none. The hyenas saw their chance to flare like a spark. The ragged-tailed female gave a guttural call, and the pack surged forward, closing the gap with brutal precision. Matrona swung her fangs wide, driving 2 back, but the others darted low toward the calf. The male finally moved, darting at an angle across the hyena charge, his fangs slicing through the darkness with deadly intent. One yelped, retreating with a bleeding flank, but the cost of the move was immediate. The pregnant doe was forced to turn, her side exposed, to avoid trampling the calf in the chaos. 2 hyenas seized the moment, lunging for her hind legs. She kicked, catching one in the jaw, sending it sprawling into the dust, but the tension sent shivers through her body. Her breathing grew harsher, the calf inside her pushing furiously, as if sensing the turmoil. The steppe became a whirlwind of movement, fangs flashing, bodies colliding, dust rising in suffocating clouds. Through it all, the young calf pressed against the matron's side, his small body pressed so tightly against her leg that her stride became uneven. The bull was circling wide now, pushing the hyenas back into the grass, but they were regrouping with alarming speed. Then the wind changed. It came in a sudden heavy gust from the east, carrying the scent of rain, but not the soft, life-giving kind. It was the thick, metallic scent of a storm driven across dry land. Lightning flashed in the distance, illuminating the steppe for an instant. In that brief flash, every creature froze, silhouetted in the damp glare. The thunder that followed was low and rolling, but beneath it was another sound, the deep, swelling roar of water where there should be none. The matron lifted her head high, testing the air, her ears open. The bull froze, listening. Even the hyenas stumbled. Somewhere beyond sight, a wall of rain and flood rushed across the land, and it would reach them before the moonlight faded. The pregnant doe shifted restlessly, her sides heaving, while the calf huddled close to the matron's leg. The first drops fell in sudden thick slaps to the ground, darkening the dust where they fell. Far out across the steppe, the deep roar of the torrent swelled until it merged with the thunder above. Matrona made the first choice. With a sharp turn, she led the group toward the high ground. Not a run, but a relentless, purposeful march. The bull hesitated for a moment, his gaze flickering to the hyenas, who now lingered at the edges, uncertain of the gathering storm. Then he fell in behind, his huge form shielding his rear. The predators did not follow. Hunger meant nothing against the strength of what was coming. The pregnant mother moved forward with difficulty. Each step measured, her breath coming in heavy splashes. The young elephant stumbled at her side now, no longer pressed against the matron, but drawn to her, as if sensing a quiet kinship. She adjusted her pace, slow enough to keep the calf within reach, even as the voice of the water grew louder. As they reached the crest, the first wave swells across the steppe below, a dark rolling sheet devouring grass and furrows. Lightning split the sky, painting the scene silver for an instant. The hyenas are gone, their shadows erased by the rain. The bull stands at the edge of the ridge, ears cocked into the wind, the light of the storm painting his scars in pale relief. The matron moves closer to the pregnant doe, pressing her shoulder gently against hers. The contact is brief, but it carries expectation, a silent acknowledgement of survival, earned rather than given. Below, the torrent rages, reshaping the land in ways neither of them can control. The pregnant doe stands with the calf pressed against her side, both of them framed by a restless sky. The rain softened into a steady thorn, washing away the dust from their skins. Dear friend, thank you for taking the time to read our story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episodes.